In my work to understand patterns in the Bible, I find a template. The deeper I dig, the more I find, but it's still a bit obscure. People following along, you'll see what I'm doing. You may have heard it said before that the Bible is made up of monomyth. It's not. What there is in the Bible is what I would call a mono-template. It's not a monomyth. What there is a template that is shared between mythologies and religions, and that template is based on a human life. Different stories, myths, and religions are built on that. Anybody at any point in time turning inward with it is going to find an inward path if they know how the story was made and how to interpret it, how to play it out in the mind. At any rate, I continue to refine my understanding, and in the Bible I'm finding this very advanced numbering system, a numbering sequence that's a little kind of nebulous still. I'll talk about that in this video. My name is Dan Paulson. I'm an independent researcher finding the source of the Bible and the codes that are right in the Bible. We don't have to make this up. We can look at it. The reason we can't see it, if you follow, you'll see right away that they had these stories memorized very well. We do not. People that carry the Bible today and read it all the time, I will tell you, you do not know the Bible well enough. I'm going to show you some things with the computer that will astound you. Okay, in this video, what I'm going to do is try to understand my numbering system better. I've got it dialed in quite a bit. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about with the numbering system in the Bible. I hate to keep rehashing this all the time because I know there's probably certain people that follow and they see it, but sometimes people might jump on and go, I don't know what this guy's talking about. So here what we have is a number analog count. The analogs, what they are is they're all numbers that are collected, that are analogous, that are going to be representing someplace along a journey. This is very tricky stuff. It's supposed to be played out in your head. In fact, let me talk about that for a second. Right here, there's, in the Tao Te Ching, the very first verse that's here is very key to all of this. It's key to all of this understanding. It's the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The Tao is the way, the pathway, this pathway inward. The pathway inward that can be told is not the eternal pathway. The pathway to internal healing that can be told is not the real one, the eternal one. So what would that mean? In this case, what it means is that people look at that and they think, well, that means you can't, it's nebulous, you can never understand it. And that's not what it means. You have to interpret it. All right? What is the eternal Tao? If it's the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, then what is the eternal Tao? I'm talking about the Tao. This is the pathway. I can talk about the pathway all day long, and you can listen and you can learn it academically, but that is the Tao that can be told. To make it eternal, the person must make the path their own. You must take the material and make it an internal mental path. That's what we have to do with all of this right here. The Bible material is the same way. We have to make it a mental path. If we can't do that, we're not going to understand it. I realize that now. That's why people aren't following along. It just looks like goofy stuff. I'm talking about what I'm doing in my head, but if you don't do it in your head, it won't make sense. It won't. They were doing something back then that we're not doing anymore. They were living through this. Depends where you are in the world. Here in the United States, it's the Bible is pretty much idol worshipped. Yeah, Jesus is idol worshipped. He's not really followed. I suppose if I had a goal somehow, it would be to save Jesus from the Christians. Yeah. That's going to sound goofy, but honestly, if you knew what he taught and you see how they act, you go, yeah, I know what you're talking about. All right, let me get back to this then. What we have is all of these numbers. If you look through the atom analog form, actually it's Adam's descendants. It is a lineage, is how it reads. But I look at it and go, oh, that's not a lineage. That's a very encoded piece of work right there. It's sequencing with some weird things, 912 and 907 and 903 and 840 and 870s. What you start looking at in there there's a weird numbering pattern. This takes a bit of exploring to find out here. 900 it's repeated exactly 7 times. So it looks like they're using a 900 as a surrogate now instead of saying a 7 and a 30, which would make the 30 become a number. The 30 is also gathered in the Sodom analog form. But that 900 being said 7 times just turns it into a 7. It's pretty simple, actually. 800, 7. 700, twice. 600, 3. 500, 3. 400, 8. 400's a bad thing. That's an interesting. See, I got something in my numbering that's not right. 3 should be a good one. Said 6 times. 6 is a good one. 6 comes from Babylonian. It's copied from there. 200, 6 times. Then there's an. They don't have 100. They have an 100. 21 times. Okay, do you see that there's replications in the numbering patterns there too that are, those numbers are code pieces. They're too big. They're not real numbers. What they are is count how many times they are. That's what they really mean. If I said 7 3 times, that means 3. And in the way they're doing the grid here, if I said 7 3 and 3 at the same, that means they're both the same thing. If that means you combine them, they take on the same mental weight on the template. And what they're doing right at the beginning of life, this is a human life cycle. Garden of Eden, naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, replicates the time in life as we are children before judging life. We're happy, we're self-aware, we are able to function. We are Adam and Eve is the mental hierarchy. We are in the Garden of Eden, which is metaphorically a happy place, and we are naked. We have not judged life. First sin is going to be that, judging life, something in life. And that's going to happen on day 8, or as a step 8. And if we go through the Bible and we start collecting these numbers up, we would even go down and see, like, where do we get the 50? Where do we get the 40s, the 20, the 10? If we go down to the story of Sodom, we're going to see something like righteous said 7 times, or righteousness, one of those two, said 7 times, in the midst of 50 being said 4 times, 40 being repeated twice, 5 being repeated 3 times, 40 being repeated 3 times, 5 3 times, 20 twice, 10 twice. Did I say 30 twice? Anyway, those, and then if you read it, you will see that it looks like it's just plugged in after the fact. If you take it completely out, then it doesn't change the story at all. Abraham is just pausing and asking God, if there's 50, would you destroy it for 50 and not for 50 righteous, and no, not for 50 righteous? It's almost when you see the repetitive stuff in there that starts sounding like Dr. Seuss, those are analog farms. Okay, so that's where the numbers are collected from. And those numbers right there, let me see if I got it on this one. Those particular numbers are the ones we see in the Bible that are repeating. Those 22 numbers are repeated over 6,052 times in the Bible. 6,052 times. Just those 22 numbers right there. That's what we're seeing repeating in the background. It's spread out enough and people don't read it very much. It's hard to see it. But once there's things to look at. All right, so the first sin would be day 8. And then a step from 12 up. That's a step up from 7 to 1. And then we're going to find that there's a 13 and that there's a 21. And the way they're doing these, so all of these are meant then to be numbers that replicate that same beginning place. That's what they're analogs to. They're analogous numbers to return to that same place. They're going to be taking us on a pathway that starts from the beginning of life and goes through experiencing life's pains and over again. There's a sequence of healing that's going on, and these numbers are meant to hide it. However, look at these other numbers down here. See what we have, all of the numbers? Watch if I go right now to the King James Version of the Bible. Noah was drunk on wine after the flood. I'm going to search the book of Genesis for wine. Do you see that wine is repeated exactly 12 times? That's one of our numbers. Wine is a good thing. Wine is not alcohol. Wine is spiritual. What is that? That's a new feeling. I have experienced a new feeling and was drunken and was uncovered in his tent. What was there here? He was uncovered. Where was there nakedness? And look at things conceptually. Adam and Eve were naked and unashamed in the garden until after life experiences began and they were covered up. Now we've gone through a healing and are uncovered again. Look at those sequences. Not only was he drunk on the wine, but his son saw his nakedness. Nakedness being repeated 5 times means it's a good thing. What are we talking about? When you don't interpret it, what you do is you end up sounding like a preacher telling you that Ham must have had some sort of gay sex with his father or something like that when he was passed out to replicate, somehow represented by him covering him or something like that, which is an interpretation that makes me wonder where that person is coming from in their mind. But that's very common. That's a human thing. In the spiritual realm, nakedness is not that at all. It means, I'm as a child, I'm naked, and I don't mean physically. I mean spiritually. I don't have judgments. I don't have shame. I don't have anger or hatred or anything like that. But later on in life, as I begin to get those, that I develop those, that's a spiritual covering right there. Nakedness in the world, in the teaching here, represents becoming spiritually uncovered, a healing process. You went through a flood, which was a healing process, and you are now naked. You created a vineyard, created a new life, and grew some wine from your vineyard and created wine from it. Now I'm living a new life experience, and I've created for myself, and I'm feeling good from that life experience, and I'm now uncovered and naked. That was a good thing right there. But it's going to continue to roll on because there's more than one thing, isn't there, to heal. So the story's going to keep rolling on, and these numbers are going to be in that pattern of rolling along that's going to keep bringing us back to this point, if that makes sense. You have to see it in your head. If you could see it somehow like a track rolling along like that, that's what we're doing, and that's what the numbers are going to be doing. But they're not only just doing it by repeating the numbers themselves all those times. You begin to look and see that the names and the nouns, let's go look again here. I know there's just a few that I remember off the top of my head here, so here we go. Sarai. 17 times exactly in Genesis. 17 on our list? Yep, it sure is right there. Isaac. 80 times. 80 on our list? It sure the hell is. Look at that. How about Sarah? 37. Do we see a 30 and a 7? Yes. So we can combine the numbers as well. Who else do we have? How about Ishmael? I'm just grabbing random names I see here now. Ishmael. 18 times. So Ishmael is going to be a bad thing. Oh, you know what? Let me go back up to the top. This is going to be a fun one. This is showing a division. All right, here's how it would work. Look at this. Lamech has 2 wives, one Zillah and one Adah. So what do we have going on here? If this plays out in my psyche, this is me, Lamech, or you, Lamech, and you have 2 inner possibilities. Does that sound reasonable? Let's take a look at something. I'm going to look at Lamech. Lamech is repeated 10 times. Lamech is a pure state on the... Well, I call it an analog pile, but honestly, that's what it is. But it's a difficult term. People would wonder, what is an analog pile? So it's kind of stuff I'm discovering, and I have to make up words for it. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, so Lamech is 10, and his wife was Adah. 8 times. That's the bad part. And the other wife was Zillah. repeated 3 times, so Zilla's going to be the good one. Okay, this is something that is patterned in the background that you just have to explore to find, but it's repetitively there. So there's something very deep that is very structured in the Bible that we don't have access to unless you do what I'm doing right here, or unless you have it memorized so well that you also know how many times each noun and verb has been repeated. The 41 comes from Noah's name is repeated 41 times. And if we go to the Babylonian Enuma Elish, Noah was the first called in Genesis. If we go back to the Enuma Elish, we're going to find Marduk is the called hero, whose name is repeated exactly 41 times in the Enuma Elish. There's a lot of link-ups in here. This numbering pattern is also in the Enuma Elish as well. Anyway, why in all this numbering pattern, why does that matter? I want to show you that it's really deep, but what's important to know is the numbering pattern is what I can show. People can look at those numbers and they can see me search things and come up with the counts and go, well, okay, yep, it's there in the Bible, all right. What it's doing, though, at the very core is that human life template, which doesn't need the numbering system at all. It's a very short, maybe 15, 16 to 20 steps, depending on where you go. You know, special called person, not many people are going to do it. You're going to lose contact with God, your higher awareness. You're going to live life, experiencing life on its terms, judging it until you learn to wake up. You're going to be experiencing cyclical pain through cause and effect. And at some point in time, you're going to turn inward, and then another sequence of steps are going to begin where it's difficult to leave your past behind. You have to cross the threshold. You've got to go in and meet up with your inner self. You have to begin resolving the issues that you have. Then you return to life. The spiritual path to purity should at some point in time be recognized as a mental path to what? Emotional health, emotional purity. That's kind of scary for some people, but it works like that. When we feel good, it's because of our minds. When we feel bad, it's because of our minds, thoughts, our experiences. That's what we have to work with, our minds. All right, so that's the very core template that exists globally. That needs to be recognized first and foremost. However, people can't really see that. They don't understand the conceptual reading of it. So what happens here in the Bible is what I recognize is that the sequence of healing is going to be repeating over and over and over again. The Bible is framed on this template, this self-healing, turn inward and heal template. It all has to be understood as analogous verbiage. It is all encoded, every bit of it. We'd have to just go through and look at things. The numbers is where I can go to. I can take that group of numbers now that I've come up with and go elsewhere in the Bible and just pick out names and, well, nouns and verbs. And you will see that they will continue to repeat by that same amount. That right there should tell everybody, yeah, there is something there. What those numbers are doing is replicating that pattern. Like I said earlier, it's just rolling along, but it's being held in a way that it is very structured in a way that if you're the right mind, you can find your way out of this stuff. So for me, when I'm showing on the computer how many times a name repeats and that it's repeating these numbers that are derived from Genesis, from these analog forms, that these same numbers are there, that this is meant to be figured out mentally, and that we aren't giving it the time, and we don't have it memorized like they did. They had access to what I am showing right here without the computer, obviously, but they did it through memorization. It was all in their heads. When I say it has to play out up here, I mean it. It's got to play out up here. We don't take the time to learn how to do it and how to play it out. It's probably going to be pretty lost. Now, I don't know if I've ever verbalized this next part quite like I am about to, but whatever code they were using in Babylonia went to the Jewish material, and it's right here what we're looking at. And as we get into the Roman material in the New Testament, we're going to find that exact same code is in use, which tells me what? Somebody is in the background building these. Well, they're building religions. They're building religions to help maintain a population, to control a population. Meantime, you see that there's a template back here that is something different. You begin to see that the religion is the carrying case, the ark, and that this template is what is inside, and that not many people are going to access it. What I'm going to do right now is just demonstrate what I was talking about. I'm going to come here to Matthew, King James Version, And I've already got some names highlighted here. I'm going to look for David, Abraham, Judas. I'll look for Isaac too. Jacob, why not? All right, let's just go search for those real quick. David. 17. There we have that. Could be a fluke. Abraham. Oops. 7. Isaac. 4 times exactly. Jacob. 6 times. You know what? It's not going to be a fluke. Judas. Judas is probably bad, don't you think? 8 times. Well, what do you know? What about, let's just do something different. The number 3 itself. It was repeated throughout the book of Matthew. I'm going to suggest very specifically 12 times. Somebody kept count. They didn't just write this randomly. They made sure to repeat 3 12 times. What about 7? That's the 3-7 grid. 12 times. What about 12? Exactly 12 times. What about, bread? That's going to be probably something we want to consume in the spiritual world. Bread. What about linen? Clean linen cloth. That's just 1. Clean linen cloth would relate to like being naked. Instead of being naked, having something on that's pure. All right, I got to slow down on doing that. This is just to show you, oh yeah, that keeps popping up. You can go to any book of the Bible and do that. It'll start popping up. Somebody's in the background making these stories, and they know what's going on. And this is purposefully structured. We've just lost touch with it. All right, now that we've gotten this far, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm starting to see something like there's a macro and a micro way of also showing that pattern in here. And what that means is in the chapters and in the verses. For example, 7 was the good place, pure state. That was before 8, before first sin. So 7, what we now know is in the 7-3 grid starts right there. Eden, naked, unashamed, Garden of Eden, good place to be. What chapter is the flood? Chapter 7. What chapter is it when God's calling happens and Abram and Sarai begin what is really the first pattern extension beyond of life beyond the flood and the other beginnings of the religion right there. It starts right at chapter 12. So that's each of the chapters themselves, even though they were put in by Langton, he put them in places where there's natural story breaks. One thing happens, chapter 12 is where Abram and Sarai get their goods and do the deed with Pharaoh and get sent on their way. That actually represents us getting life experiences that are bad and getting sent and then moving along from them. 8, moving along into the next stage. 13, here in that case, moving on to the next stage. So they're using the patterns in the story, the chapters, as well as in the verses. So it might help me continue to analyze what I'm kind of struggling with. And perhaps the purest place that I can see that in use, where it's micro and macro and in inner path teaching, is in the book of Luke, chapter 7, verse 47. You can see the 40 and the 7 have been combined, but it's also chapter 7. And that's where the verse is something to the effect of, for her sins, which were many, are forgiven, for she loved much, but those who love little, their sins are not forgiven much, or something like that. It's a statement of purity, that the inner self is the she, that when the inner self is full of love, then life is good. When it's not full of love, life is not okay. And that's a perfect demonstration where the micro and the macro teaching are in use. If you knew that it was being kept on a template, that these are analogous terms that mean us, then you know that, oh, 7, I'm looking for a good thing there if I'm interpreting it. In fact, from here on out, every time you see one of those numbers, know that it harkens back to this point. Every time you read one of those, that's what it's doing. So what I'm going to do in this video is start at chapter 12 and just interpret what it is on the human life cycle. Chapter 12, chapter 13, chapter 14. I'll just start working through the videos and see what emerges. I have to do that to figure things out because I don't have it figured out. But you can see there's a lot to it that is figured out. There's still a mystery. Okay, back to Genesis, here we go. And just as a reminder, this is where the 3-7 grid starts. It's at the end of the first creation story. Actually, it's chaptered out to be at the beginning of the second creation. But these 3 verses here actually fit of the style of the first creation. And it's the 7 days creation story, yeah. Just like we would have the 7 tablets of creation in Babylonian works. So there's 7 days creation right there. So the chapter break would have naturally been here. However, this is one place he didn't put it that way. But if you look, you will see what he did. Look at verse 3 is where that 7th is. He's linking them. He's trying to link them together here for us. I didn't catch that 3 before. I used to think he did this. He purposefully tried to hide that and tried to overlap it. Actually, I now think that he's trying. In fact, it made it stand out because it seemed like that chapter should have ended up here when you read it. So it always seemed kind of strange. But then when you look how he breaks up the sentences, you see that it's spread out in a way to force the micro to happen like that. Let me go to 17 is one of our good numbers, right? Let's go to that and take a look at a couple of things real quickly. Actually, first, let me refresh where we gather 17, because 17 does not come from one of the 3 analog farms. There are numbers being developed here in the flood, and the 17th appears here. 17 itself appears 4 times. Twice it is 17, and twice it is 17th. During the flood, it is the 17th version. But what we see here, if we look through it, 600 is said 3 times. That's a good, I put an E there. No is 61 times. That's the one that links up. That's this oddball one. I'm sorry, 41. That's the oddball one that links up with the Babylonian Marduk. 41 times. So we got a 3, and a 41, and a 2. And then the 17th is there. So these 3 numbers, all being good numbers, just went out and said, we're going to gang up and grab a 17th. What if we looked at the other one? And the ark, which is repeated 27 times, rested on the 7th month. There's our 7th. And on the 17th, it's repeated twice, day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. So 17th has been said 2 different times. So it's called it has to be said twice, called into being, and it has to appear with other numbers that are good numbers in order for it to become a good number. That's how we gathered the 17. It's a different one. And what about this? What's the size of the ark now? The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits. 300 is repeated 6 times. That's a good number. That means pure state. The breadth of it, 50 cubits. 50 is one of our analogous numbers. It was gathered in a variety of places, but most notably, it's going to appear 4 times in the Sodom story, repeated 4 times. And guess what? There are 50 chapters in the book of Genesis. The height of it, 30 cubits. We're looking for pure state here. And a window shall be made to the ark in a cubit. Shalt thou finish it above? There's a 1 in the door of the ark. With the lower, 2nd, and 3rd stories shall make it. The ark is us. The ark is our new self. And this is the mental hierarchy being established right here. And we're going to bring a flood and destroy everything. Here's another one. These are what get your attention. For yet 7 days I will cause it to rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. So the 7 is pointing to 40 2 times right there. However, down here, it's going to repeat it. And it came to pass. So it's calling it in. It's kind of like an if-then. And so it was. I say, and so it was. In 7 days the water were upon the earth, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. In the process of purging, you are... okay. Anyway, so that's how I look. If you do things like that and see things like that, it seems to be very consistent in how the numbers are being gathered. Now we're going to go to chapter 17, given all of that right there. This is how it's working. This is how to read the code. But it's all mental code, and it's all in the numbers and the patterns, the repeats, the amount of repeats. Without it in memory, we can't do it. Okay, and I know the video is about trying to zero in that numbering system going through the macro. That's what I'm doing here, is jumping around, trying to find places that it seems to me like it's a little more evident to see it. So here we have 17. I wanted to build up to where we get here. 17 should be a good thing. And what we have here, first of all, I want to say that Ham was the chosen of Canaan. Ham is the one that covered his father Noah. Ham is gone, but Abram is here later. Abram is going to become Abraham. It represents iterations of us as we move through life. So, that's what's going to be happening right here. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, so it's getting close to transition time. The 90 we've collected. The 9 is there too. That's one of the ones I'm not quite sure of. You know what? I want to stop and make a point of something real quick. I just jumped over to the NRSV and listened to how it sounds. 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him. It is so hard to, it makes sense, but you know what? It's not supposed to do that. It is supposed to be 90 and 9. It is not supposed to be 99. They're somehow in the verbiage letting you know that it is a 90 and it is a 9. You need to separate them out. That's important to know because the same thing happens in the analog farms. The King James Version will say 930, 812, 840. It won't say 840, 820. It verbally gets your attention. It's part of the code. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I'm the mighty God, walk before me and you be perfect. So we've got, sounds like a calling. God is appearing. And I'll make a covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. That's always going to be there in the beginning. You'll have as many offspring as sand on the beach or stars in the sky or something like that. That represents the mind. When you're young, you're very simple. You've got a very few. The older we get, the more we live life, the more we experience, the more vast those judgments become. That's what that reference is right there. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, so on number 3 right there, Abram fell on his face. This represents the consciousness connecting with the higher awareness. The higher awareness right here, this is a good place. Yeah, that's right there at verse 3. And for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. This is us finding out that we are going to be multifaceted in life. Neither shall your name any more be Abram, but you shall be called Abraham, for a father of the many nations have I made you. Right there, verse 5, we just transitioned from our old self to our new self, from Abram to Abraham. And I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. This is the qualities that we have later in life. Kings might as well be Nephilim, giants. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed, and after thee, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be the God unto you, and to your seed after you. And that's right at verse 7. And what that is really saying is that from this realm up here, almost have to get back to it. And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land where you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land where you are a stranger. So you're going to go off first to a place that you don't want to live. And that's mentally. You're going to live a life experience that you don't like. Let's back up to 7 again. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you. Yeah, that whatever you decide, actually, the covenant is this. You get whatever you ask for. What do you ask for? What do you decide? What do you carry? What did you name? Yeah, I'm seeing something very premium here in this piece of text that just, oh my gosh, it almost brings tears to my eyes. So what happens then? Verse 8. That's the next step. And I will give to you and your seed after you a land where you are a stranger. That is leaving Eden and moving on in life. Whew. Thick stuff. But oh my gosh, beautiful. Yeah. What would you call this? It's like interpretation with numbering cross support. So there we have stranger and a strange. Yeah, you're going to be a stranger. So you go off in life, and 9, I'll keep a covenant between you, after you, and their generation. 10 should be a good one. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. Every man, child, you shall be circumcised. Among you shall be circumcised. Okay. Perfect. Circumcised, we need to establish what that is spiritually. All right, so what would that analog mean then as well? If everything has to be treated the same way, then we know what circumcision means in the physical world. What does it mean in the mental world, the physical world, the spiritual world, however you want to call that? It needs to be mentally interactive. So that term is holding something that occurred. The reason you would need to have something cut off is because there's something there. And the penis represents reproduction. It represents what gives birth during, you know what it means? It's a judgment. It's a judgment. Sex would represent a decision being made that creates an emotion and a memory that has an offspring now that emerges continuously. So the sexual union, spiritually, is a decision made. And that the decision made is actually the offspring. The sexual union is an occurrence. Hey, up you, no, up yours, yeah, whatever. Bad things happen. We've got a union, and then anger, and then an offspring as a result of that. That's it right there. You have to not have offspring on those, okay? So circumcision means being pure, being unjudged. Judge not, lest you be judged, for the judgment with which you judge others. Yeah, leaving things pure in spirit, pure in heart. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Poor. Yeah, that's not physical. That's devoid of. Blessed are those devoid, for yours is the kingdom of God. Happiness. Bingo. We have it right here. It's going to just continually teach that. All right, if that's enough setup, let's get into the interpretation. 12. We got a good number right here. So we got that all figured out. And we're going to look at a few things. You see, I've got yellow highlighted here, 3 and 7. I'm not going to go do all of them. I'm just kind of pointing the way as we move along. All right, so this is going to replicate the beginning of life. This would be parallel to Adam and Eve, naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, or right before then. There it was. It was number 24. It says, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. This means we leave our mother and father behind, and we, as one flesh, since we, when you're first born, you really don't have that self-awareness. This, at some point, the man and his wife were naked and not ashamed. That is us really in our infancy, but we're self-aware. We're playing, we're having fun. We are old enough to be having life experiences that we remember and that affect us. All right, so as we get down here to 12, we see right off the bat that's where we are in this story. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your kindred and your father's house, to a land that I will show you. This means you go off on your own. You're going to go off and have your own life. You're not being instructed to do it. It's going to happen. The story is made up in such a way that it sounds like there's an instruction and that's happening. But if you put yourself on it, you'll go, oh, you know what? The Lord represents the higher awareness. Abram is me. I'm going to leave my past, my early beginnings behind, into my own life experience. And I'm going to become a great nation, and I will be blessed, and I will have and I will be a blessing. Somehow, I'm not quite sure what that means right there. If that's isolating out, saying that there's not many people going to do it or something like that. I think what you do is you kind of hide out, actually, if you get there. I will make of you a great nation. This is not physical. This means you yourself feel internally that you have a great nation. All right, and I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Okay, this should be understood as cause and effect. I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. Whatever emerges, and what curses us is going to be from inside our minds, not from out in the world. This works from internally. So whatever we have that we're holding on to that is good is going to feel good, and whatever we're holding on to that is bad is going to continue to cycle out bad. And all of the families of the earth will be blessed. Everything that I decide, we decide. We don't know it. We're unconsciously doing that, living life. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Okay, Abram was 75. We've got a 70 and a 5. Lot. How many times was Lot said? Boy, I see Lotan. Okay. Lotan 4 times. Just those 4. So Lot is 30. It's a good number. So we're starting off in pure state. Lot being, we wouldn't know this. You're not seeing, it doesn't say Lot was 30 years old and went with him. It said Abram was 70 and 5 years old. But if you knew that Lot's name was repeated 30 times, you would know what the story is hiding, what it's nesting in the numbers. A pure state, inner being with a pure state consciousness. And we departed out of Haran. Well, what is Haran? 13. So we're leaving a bad place behind. Interesting. And Abram took his wife Sarai. There we are, number 5. This is our inner self, Abram and his wife Sarai. And if it was 5,000 years ago and we were kids and we had the story memorized and we were talking to each other, we would know Sarai is a good name. Everybody is starting at pure state. This is early in the story. This is early in our life. These are the elements that we're starting with, and at this point, they are all pure. They come from that number pool. And Lot, his brother's son, this is going to be our divided self. And all their substance that they had gathered in the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. Into the land of Canaan they came. So whatever we came from, whatever we're bringing with us, whatever our personalities are and our qualities and our experiences as children, as we go off into we're bringing all of that with us. That is what we're bringing with us, all the substance that they had gathered and the souls that they had gathered. Remember, this all plays out in the mind. Souls are all the things that act out. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, into the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. 7. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, Unto your seed I will give this land. And there he built an altar unto the Lord who appeared unto him. Okay, so that means that you are going to live in this mind state here. This is your life experience that you are going to be living. I'm not quite sure what building the altar to the Lord is. I think it's part of the story to get back to. An altar to the Lord is where you are going to stop and sit down. Okay, think of it this way. There's that point in time when you wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and you've got that mental turmoil going on, but there's a voice inside your head once in a while that sneaks in that's very relaxed and detached. That's the higher awareness. And it'll say something like, hey, you got to relax. There's nothing you can do tonight. Just go to sleep. Take care of it tomorrow. But we don't engage with that. We slip right back into the memories and we lose touch with it. What we're doing in building an altar is knowing that and understanding that and going, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing here and go sit with my higher awareness, which means disconnecting from, I'm sitting here in these memories and the emotions and the funk of it, but I am not these. I am this higher awareness up here. The altar represents that, a place where you reconnect with the Lord at a point in time. However, there's good things and bad things that come from the Lord. So, that altar is going to be all over the place. It's a part of the story, and they have altars in their culture. So this is going to just work in the population as a story to go around. But on the template, it really represents a place where you connect with your higher awareness. We got that going on at verse 7. And then he moved to a mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. East of Bethel. What's Bethel? We're going to a bad place. Verse 8, moving on, Bethel, 13, bad place. And pitched his tent. You're going to live there for a while. This is going to be your life experience, whatever you've moved on to. What job, what house, where did you move into, who are you, whatever. High on the east, and there he built another altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. I don't know why he called upon the name of the Lord right there. I don't know what that means. But Abraham journeyed, going still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to live there, for the famine was grievous, and it was a bad famine. But look at verse 10. That would have been a good thing. What was that? Famine. There was nothing to eat, nothing to consume. You're supposed to fast this to the world. Here, I can just go do this. I don't know why I keep talking like it. Here, 24, famine. There we have it. Famine's a good thing. You were actually at a point in time where you were living in a place where the famine in the land meant I couldn't learn anything. I was somewhere where there was no life experience to have. So I go into Egypt, which represents I'm going off into life to live there for there was nothing to learn where I came from, from my infancy. And as it came to pass when I came near my life experience, that I said to my inner self, "Behold, I know you're a fair woman to look upon." What would that mean? Behold, I know that you are easy to fall into temptation. That's what it really would be. Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians see you that they'll say, "This is his wife," and they'll kill me, but they'll keep you alive. Please tell them that you're my sister, so that it'll go well for me, and that my soul will live because of you. And absolutely, when Abram did get to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very fair, and the princes of the Pharaoh saw her and commended her to the Pharaoh, that the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen and he-asses, and men servants and maid servants, and she-asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? So I might have taken her to my wife. Now therefore, take your wife and go your way." And Pharaoh told all of his men concerning him, and they sent him and his wife and all that he had. That ended right on verse 20. All right, so there's some bizarre stuff going on here. It's going to play out in the mind. It's going to have to make some sort of sense, but it's put in a story where there's just a lot of things carrying the story that are not carrying a big message. The message is an important message. Let's see, Bethel east, yeah, that was 13, went to a bad place, still journeyed on towards the south. Egypt represents, yes, living life experience. This is us. And what we're doing here in this part of the story, saying that Sarai, behold, Sarai, I know that you are a fair woman to look upon. I would say that I know you are easy to tempt. You'll try everything once. Hey, that looks pretty good. Let me try it. Ooh, I like it. Give me some more. Give me some more. Give me some more. Yeah, we're a fair woman to look upon. Therefore, it'll come to pass when the Egyptians, when life experiences see you, that they're going to say, "This is his wife," and they'll kill me, but they'll save you. So that's a weird thing. But look at this part. So I'm begging you, my sister, that it'll go well with me for your sake, that my soul shall live because of you. She is his soul. that it may be well with me for your sake, and my soul shall live because of you. This is a tricky piece right here, telling you to turn inward. Sarai, okay. And it came to pass, sure enough, I went into life experiences, and I did easy, fall into temptation. I succumbed to life's experiences and became a product of those experiences and my judgments of those experiences. And the conscious, what do we get here? We actually get something. We get sheep, oxen, he-asses, men servants, maid servants, she-asses, and camels. I have not analyzed this. What is sheep? $18. So sheep is not good. You're not gaining sheep. You're gaining some qualities that are not okay. All right. I won't keep going through that. That's too much detail. This is cyclical pain. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh. You see a plague in his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. All right. Also notice that here's a common motif. Somewhere up here, he called upon the name of the Lord, but the Lord wasn't around this entire time. And they never called upon the name of the Lord. They didn't say, hey, can you make some food grow down here where you put us because there's no food? They just wandered off to Egypt and did this weird stuff and not even talk to God, which is a weird thing. You have to understand something else is going on here. And then God, what does God do? How long does a plague take? In their times, honestly. It wasn't like going down there and, hey, you better let her go right now. It was like, well, all righty, I'm going to send some locusts this year. Next year, maybe some blight. Maybe the next year. Yeah, I don't know. Great plagues. And you know what? This is the precursor to the Exodus story right here. It changes a little bit, but it's going to get on steroids, and this is going to be a remake. All right, what I've done here next is I just copied chapter 12 from the book of Genesis and created a file with just chapter 12 alone so I can isolate it. What I want to do is add a bunch of notes to it without putting those notes into my raw copy of the King James Version, which I want to leave intact. So I separated that out over here, and in the process, I accidentally made a discovery, another layer. Look at this. We're isolated here to just Chapter 12. Look at, there's only 20 lines here. That's it. 20 lines. 20 sentences. Lord. 7 times. Abram. 12 times. Sarai. 3 times. Those are all good. They're all pure. Lot uncertain. Lot's going to turn bad. Lot's going to be divided in herself twice. I don't know what to do with that one. But the primary characters are there. Look at another one here. Land. 8. That's not good. You're going to a bad place, to a land that I will show you. Go into the land of Canaan. Into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land of the... See, he's not in a good... These are all bad places, the land there. And his wife is who? Sarai. We're good. 3. What about wife? 8. Well, uh-oh. What's going on? Yeah, okay. God, this astounds me. It's so thick. It's a verbal numbering, like a I don't know, a matrix. I don't know how to describe it. I can see it in my head, but it's still kind of nebulous. Okay, yeah, they got a lot into this, a lot more than I thought. So right in that individual chapter itself tells you exactly what. Why is wife not going to be okay? Wife is going to become corrupted. Wife in the beginning here, you're going through a bad land, and this is your earlier self. Wife is going to be corrupted. Sarai's good. Sarai's going to move along. It's going to continue to be your early self. All right, at this point, what that is going to tell me is that I go through these chapters. I'm going to have to isolate them out like that. And on each one of them, before doing anything, I'm going to do a word count on them, get try to get a complete word count. Right now, I've only got a partial word count. I've got the ones that I know are from the green list, the 3, 5, and the 7. Woman, Sarai, bless, Lord. Those are all good qualities to start with, and Abram as well. That's the consciousness. This is our conscious and our early self starting out in life in a pure state. However, we're going to pick up, the wife is going to pick up all the qualities, like what, Eve's first sin, or Eve's sin and all that. Yep. And we're going to go through a land that is a bad land. That's that life experience that, that's me. And I connect myself into this starting off as a child. I'm pure, but then I go off to a life of I'm raised where we are abused and my brother commits suicide and I'm told I'm a stupid, worthless idiot, and you run away and you get molested and things like that. That's right here, this story for me. That's me moving through that point in time in life. Okay, let's interpret it. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country and from your kindred and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. Yep, moving on in life. You're going to take off on your own. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless those, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. Yeah, that's just you. You're going to be living your life. That's that kind of sounds like a calling. You're an isolated person. I will make you a great, I don't know that you're going to be a blessing to other people. It's just for your own life. I want to add to this one, and I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you, and in you all of the families of the earth shall be blessed. So this is I've talked about this as cause and effect, but I need to do something different. What we need to do is jump over to, and bear with me, I'll be quick on this. We need to jump to the Tao Te Ching and learn something there that is very easy to understand, and then come back over here and you'll go, oh, okay, yep, I see that's what they're doing here as well. So on to the Tao Te Ching. All right, I've got the Stephen Mitchell translation up right here. This is just the verse 1 right here. And the one it's going to come down to is this one. Yet mystery and manifestation come from the same source. That's where we're going to get that I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Watch what happens here. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao, right? We know the Tao that is taken is the eternal Tao. It's a personal mental path. If you don't do that, you can talk about it all day long, and it's correct, but it's not eternal to you. It's not personal to you until you turn inward and go slay your own dragons. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. We want to leave everything unnamed, unclassified in life. We're going to have life experiences, though, and that's what the issue is. Naming is the origin of all particular things. The unnameable is the eternally real, but naming is the origin of all particular things. When we know it's a mental path and we're playing all these out in our mind, knowing that, then what naming is the origin of all particular things is making a judgment, making a decision, having a memory and an emotion with it. Right there, you just named it. I don't like it, I like it. I'm ashamed of it, I hate it. I love it. Free from desire, free from hanging on, free from the things that you have named. That's not real physical desire. This is a mental, something you're hanging on to in your head. You may not want it at all, but you're not letting it go. You have to shift these terms. Free from what you've named, you realize the mystery of life. Caught in what you have named, you see only their manifestations. So whatever you live through your mental experience, and the more things you have named, the more you live through those experiences. What does it say here? Yet mystery and manifestations come from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gateway. What's a gateway? Turn inward to all understanding. Yet mystery and manifestation come from the same source. Okay, so if we went back to the King James Version, and we're going to get the same lesson held in quite a bit different verbiage, and here we have it. I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. Who are all the families of the earth? All the things that you've named. In that translation, it said naming is the origin of all particular things. I've got another translation that says naming is the origin of the 10,000 things. Many things, the myriad things, the grains of sand, the stars in the sky. Okay, so this is telling us that everything comes from that source, and everything in you is going to be blessed, is going to be decided upon. Is it blessed? You might think blessed. What it means is manifest. You're going to bless them, and if you don't like them, that's how you've blessed it. I'm ashamed of that. Well, you've blessed it that way. So Abram departed as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. We all took off. He was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So he was 75 here. That's pure. Lot, we went through all that stuff. Yeah, we know that we're in pure state. And we're taking off with all of the things that we start off with in life. What are these qualities, the things we had gotten in Haran and went into the land of Canaan? And this almost sounds like 5 right here, that we're starting off with. What do we have? We're pure, but we have our own qualities. We have our own personalities. We have our own nationalities. There's many things that we start with that we come from, but now we're going off into a bad place, and unto your seed I will give this land, and there we have it. And he moved his thence to a mountain on the east of Bethel. This just means, okay, now I left home and I went to Seattle to live on the streets for a while. Under the viaduct, under the bridge, yeah. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. Yep, life continues to go that way. There's a famine in the land. Abram went down into Egypt to live there, for the famine was really bad. See, I got things off here somewhere. This is where it really starts going bad, actually. There's a famine in the land. The famine means that you don't have anything where you are. But this is mental. This is not food. This is mental. This would be like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden before leaving, honestly. There's a famine in the land. Before they were told not to eat, but they did anyway. In this case, there's nothing to eat, so they have to leave. In the other case, they ate the wrong thing, so they had to leave. So you can either don't consume something fastest to the world, or you can eat bad things, or you can eat good things. I mean, all of those are functional terms. So the famine here means that there was nothing. Yeah, there was just a void there mentally. So we went into life, and we had experiences in life. Our inner being was corrupted through our life experiences, and we gained a bunch of things as a result, and we began to have cyclical pain as a result of that. Remember, the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues. What did we just cover in 3? And I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. Remember, yet mystery and imagination, yet mystery and imagination come from the same source. I didn't catch that till editing. Mystery and imagination. No, mystery and manifestation. Sounds like I'm blending Edgar Allan Poe with it too. What a mess in my head. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. What this means is we continue to suffer for the things that we're carrying. God, I hate that. God, I hate that. God, I hate that. God, I hate that. Yeah, we're having plagues right there. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, so this represents the idea of the past telling you to go. That can happen, or it could be like when we get to Exodus, or if you go read Exodus, in this case, Pharaoh doesn't want to let you go. There's plagues and whatnot. This is a very small version of what that is going to end up being. Anyway, so then you're told to leave. So you're going on your way. You're going on to another iteration. So this completes a sequence that lets us know we went from a bad place, or that we started out pure, but then we went through a bad life experience, gathered some things up along the way that are not, just whatever you're gathering. In this case, you got stuff that you brought. What did we have in the first creation when it happened? There was Nephilim. The giants were a result of it. In this case, you're getting bad animals, or servants, things that all of that needs to be looked at closer right now. You might try to put yourself in the story by understanding an element like that, like the something you're accumulating, or Nephilim, something like that. That's a simpler one. That there's something that is acting out in it, and that it's bad. It's not very detailed here in Genesis on what it is. They've got. If you wanted to go to the book of Enoch, first Enoch right there, right off the bat, you're going to see, they're going to detail what those are. The Nephilim, they're going to be, and the sons of God and the corruption they do, it's going to be outlined very well. In the Bible, it is not. It's just barely there. But if you can look at those and imagine, just stop and look at your own life and remember your experience as being treated this way or that way, and having this experience, having some kind of pain. Later on, you can remember to yourself, that times you screamed and yelled at people or punched holes in things or just really hated something and felt ashamed and all that before any healing has happened, that all of those are those bad elements, the Nephilim, or the things, the animals, the manservants and female servants. There's something else weird going on there. Notice there's a left and a right on that as well, with male and female separated. So yeah, there's more things that are in the material that are still like, well, there's these little cryptic things in there that are still not figured out. You know what though? There's things in here that are they're very easy to spot. You'd have to be interested in looking for them. I don't think many people are. But if you look through here, for example, I've got this is the NRSV, but it doesn't matter for this part that I'm doing. We've got a descendants of Terah. And it says that, now these are the descendants of Terah. Terah was the father, see this right here, Terah was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Down here, Terah died in Haran. So that means the father died in the son. And what did we just read in Genesis 12? So Abram departed as the Lord spoke unto him. Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. It's thick. How would that work? These are the cryptic things you have to pick up on, and if you can make that work in your mind, you're onto something. That has to work. You play it out in the psyche. They're iterations of us. This is telling us that early selves give way to later self. Look at your life. At one point in time, I mean, grab any slice of your life in the back and look at yourself now and ask yourself how similar you are to that person back then at that time. That's what they're doing in here. When people are combining, they're dying inside of their own family members, things like that. There's something cryptic, but it's a puzzle. Once you figure it out, enter the narrow gate. Okay, so that's how I would interpret this one on the template of a human life cycle. That this is the starting of life. This kind of replicates the Adam and Eve story down to the point where what happens? Lot and there's always going to be a division. So we've got our Cain and Abel. Well, in fact, throughout the material, you're going to find a lot of, like a man with two wives, or a man with a wife and a maid servant, or something like that. That somehow these elements are in there that represent inner parts of us that we wrestle, we struggle. There's parts of us that are not good, that need to be destroyed, and parts of us that are good and need to be nurtured and given. The inner self needs to be Sarai, not, something that's hurting. If that makes sense. But not Sarai in the beginning, not Sarai at this point. Sarai is going to go on through iterations. It becomes Sarah, and then things are going to roll along continuously with Isaac, and it's going to move on. Jacob, and okay, where am I here with this? You see how big it gets, and that it takes a lot to kind of pull it all together. And I still am working on pulling it together. And I still stumble through things and find stuff like this and go, wow, look at they're numbering in here as well in the individual chapter, not just the entire book, but down in each chapter. And each chapter, remember, is a step along the way. If you were following a pattern sailing from island to island to island, that would be like this. You're going from place, we just left the first island. We're underway with all of the bad qualities. What is happening here is, like it's starting off where Adam and Eve are pure in the garden. They're told to leave their past and start. That's what's happened here. You're told to leave the past and start. So the two creation stories are gone. The creation isn't there. The human life template begins up to where the time the destruction needs to happen. But right here, what we see is the Abram and Lot is going to become that separation, that inner separation. That it's holding the place of the Cain and Abel, another family member, but they're internal parts. They can keep shifting those around while they still mean the same thing, and make the story sound different. It was my son. No, it was my daughter. No, it was my animals. It was my something. I don't know what you could. And actually, I said that wrong. It's not that simple. The male in the mental hierarchy is always the consciousness, and the female is always the inner qualities. That can shift around. You can have different male qualities, but that means I've decided I'm going to do this. This is me. And then later on I go, you know what? I'm going to give in. Just one more night. That's it. That's another male part of me right there. But those are the two conflicting male parts. The inner parts are, now I feel this way about it. Now I feel that way about it. I have guilt. I have joy. I have the emotions, the things like that happen. And really the continue later on, when you're not even doing it anymore, you're off somewhere else, but you're having some kind of an effect by it. That's all from the female. That's from the inner portion. That's from the memories. I guess you have to be careful on how you use them. They have, like, trees and things like that grow from the garden. That is what emerges from you. You can't use them for other things. Plants emerge from the soil. The soil is your mind. Whatever it is that emerges from you is the fruits from your garden or the weeds from your garden, all of that. It's always going to be in that kind of a manner. Okay, so, and this is no different. And again, reading these at face value is like reading Aesop's fables and never trying to understand what they mean. There is something in here, in every one of them. Every one of them. These are structured so thick. Even if you look at it and go, but there's a historical pieces over here. Yes, so what? That's when they wrote the story. They just grab historical pieces right there. They wrote about the things in their culture. That doesn't mean that the stories happened. When you see the template, you understand that the stories were made on that template and elements were grabbed. Okay? It's easy to put Jericho in a story. Just grab a sacked city and say 7 priests blowing 7 trumpets, marching 7 times, with, all that, the number replication going on to the destruction. You have to, at some point, recognize patterns that are so common throughout here that you can see what's going on. But obviously, it's not easy. And for myself, I'm getting this today. I'm understanding it, but only because I'm working it out in my mind. But I've spent a lifetime kind of studying this stuff, gathering things, but I never knew how to read them conceptually until recently. And that numbering pattern never emerged until I could read the Bible conceptually. I had to understand what they were doing conceptually first, that I am Adam and that I am Eve. All of that had to happen first before I recognized, oh, these number patterns are replicating the life cycles that are going on there. So the number pattern is a deeper layer than what the actual template interpretation is. It's not really a mono-template. Well, it is a mono-template if you consider creation. If you put creation into it, human life, and then human healing, if you make all that one big template, that's what it is. But it doesn't, like that creation, it's not going to repeat again. The human life cycle can repeat, or called hero might just pick up and not have it might not start off where you're in your infancy and it goes bad to begin with. It might just be time to get called and you got to go destroy a city. It's time to go cross this river and take something back. Take this land, take this place. The people are corrupt, something, somehow. It's always going to be that pattern. All right. I hope this was helpful, fun, interesting. Man, it gets long. There's no way to keep it short. There really isn't. It's not small stuff. So it's just going to be out of reach for many people. And I get that. I do. It was frustrating people weren't getting on board, but the more I see it, the more I understand, well, boy, it took me so much work to hook into it. And now I realize how much it is a personal mental process that if you don't take the time and do it yourself, it's just not going to work. So this is probably more of a record than anything else. I don't think people follow very well. Anyway, probably more of a novelty thing. What are all those numbers? Yeah, okay. All right, see you in the next video.